Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is the All Red, White, and Blue podcast, and we have a kind of a special episode that we're doing tonight. I'm Mike Allred, and joining me tonight, of course, is Jimmy Kozlowski,
Hey.
the captain. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Great.
And we are joined tonight by a special guest. He's a congressional candidate for Congressional District 1, and that is Chris Bruneau. Chris, thanks for coming.
Thanks for inviting me, everybody.
So this is laid back. Enjoy yourself. Have a good time. We just want to kind of get to know you, not just your policies and where you stand as a candidate, but also get to know Chris, the guy. So this gives you the opportunity to do that in kind of a laid back, less controlled environment, let's say, than maybe a radio show or a debate.
Yeah.
You are running against the incumbent, Andy Harris, Congressman Andy Harris, for Congressional District 1. Is that correct?
Yeah, and just to tell you all, the people say that to me all the time. You're running against Andy Harris, and I say, no, I'm running for you.
That's a good answer.
Because truly I am. I'm out to represent the people.
Sure.
I don't look at this as a competition. This is trying to improve our representation. Look, he's my congressman. He's everybody's congressman here. Mm-hmm. I'm not running against him. I'm running for the people because the people said, what I've heard on the campaign trail is this: they're not being represented. So again, I'm not running against anybody. I'm running for the people out there to be a representative for everybody in Maryland's 1st Congressional District.
Fair enough. Well said. All right, then your opponent, one is Andy Harris, but no, I follow you. And then you also, there's a third one, Michael Lemon.
Yes.
Who I'll be honest, I don't know his stance on anything. I haven't really heard much from the Lemon camp. The primary is coming up, and you've had a busy week. I mean, it's been a busy week for everybody, but definitely on your side, I think. You had a debate on Tuesday night, right?
Yeah, the debate on Tuesday night. It was a debate forum. According to the moderator, it was a draw.
Okay.
It didn't go off as planned. We arrived timely. Myself, Michael Lemon, who you mentioned earlier, and then the incumbent, who's a candidate also, he didn't arrive till 7:20, and the event began at 6:30. So it was really awkward. He had to play catch up once he got there. And I'll just be candid with you. She started the event. Christine Dolan's her name. She was a moderator. I think 6 or 7 questions were asked, and we answered them, myself and Michael Lemon. And so Andy Harris arrived, like I said, 7:15, 7:20. Well, the whole time in the back of the room, Nicole Harris is there, his wife. Does everybody know who I'm talking about?
I know Nicole, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the whole time she's like this with the phone in the back of the room. Every question that's asked of us, she's back there like this. Now, what do you think she was doing with that phone?
Giving him heads up on the question so he'd have a prepared answer when he got there.
Thank you, sir. So, and we all knew it was going on, and we pointed it out to one of the folks from the Talbot County GOP. Mm-hmm. What are we going to do? Yeah. So, of course, he was ready as soon as he got there, and we all recognized it. And look, gentlemen, we recognized it. Everybody in the room recognized that. And as a matter of fact, one of the questions that was asked of me, as well as Michael Lemon and Andy Harris when he finally arrived, was our assessment of the Maryland GOP support of candidates running for office. And just that morning, I was having a text discussion with, I'll say, Jordana Schiffinelli. She was lieutenant governor during the gubernatorial with Dan Cox.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she and I become friends in these last couple of years. And we were having this exchange about how people were requesting information from the Maryland GOP. And when Nicole Harris is asked for a Trump sign, she texts back, and I got it right here on the phone. She texts back and says, "Oh, the only thing we have left are Trump Harris signs."
I see.
So to the point, gentlemen, is what I called them out, and Jordana and I were having this text dialogue. And I said, "Look, Jordana, if nobody calls these people out, that's never going to stop. It's just never going to stop." So I did not know I was going to be asked that question Tuesday night when the debate began. I said. And I was getting ready to give this really snazzy answer and be nice to everybody. I said, the buck stops here. It's time to call these people out. And I pointed at the back of the room. I said, She campaigns with her husband. She's on him on WCBM. She's out with him on the campaign trail. She's the first chair of the Maryland GOP. That's in violation of the rules. It's as simple as that. She's supporting the candidate. You can't do that. The rules are you can only support nominees. And I called it right out. And I said, and I know Nicole's standing in the back of the room there looking at me. And so I called him out. And look, gentlemen, my point about that is this. One of the points that I made that evening on Tuesday was this. I've campaigned now for 12 months. I declared 1 April of last year. So I've been on the campaign trail 12 months. I said to you all earlier, as of today, 251 events I've attended, whether it's a group of people like this or out there putting signs up, 251 events that I've attended. I've met a lot of people, traveled the whole district. And I tell you, I take this away from that travel, and that is this. The central committees through every county, the 10 counties that make up the 1st Congressional District, there is dissent, discontent. They're upset with the leadership in the GOP. The de facto leader of the 1st Congressional District should be the congressman. Instead, it's a little dynasty they've put together with his wife being the chair and him being the congressman. He should be the leader. It's like a king and queen running this little monarchy in the 1st Congressional District. And everybody sees that, but nobody will say anything about it. So I did it the other night, and I'm saying it now. And you can put it out there, gentlemen. I'm not going to back down on this.
What did you mean when you said it's against the rules? Like, what specific rules are there that are supposed to monitor that?
The rule is this: if you read the I want to say charters, I think it's if it is called a charter, they're the rules of engagement for the Maryland GOP, and then you have a central GOP for each county. So we have the Maryland GOP up here, then you have 24 counties, and each county has a central committee, and they have their rules. And the rules are simply this. There's a lot to them. It's not really that long and drawn out, but they can only support Republicans. Makes sense. It's Republican. It's a GOP organization, and that they're not allowed to favor any one candidate. They only will go out after the nominee has been declared, following a primary, and then the central committees get behind the nominee. So we all know that.
Okay.
So you can't go into a central committee event expecting support from them. You know, you want to be able to attend the Lincoln dinners and so forth and get your name out there, but they're not going to put signs out for you. They're not going to give you money and all those things. When you become the nominee, then then the backing comes. Then the backing comes in. So here you've got Nicole Harris, who was the first chair of the Maryland GOP. That I'm not going to get into the.
Was there a voting process to get her into that job?
Yeah, preceded by a lot of money that went from the Harris campaign to the Maryland GOP. And this, gentlemen, I'm stating to you facts that are public record. Right. You go right into the Harris campaign, go to fec.gov, go back to I guess 2020 to 2022, and look at, I actually go back further than that. Go back about 10 years and look at the amount of money that the Harris campaign has put into the Maryland GOP, and you can see this big influx of cash into the Maryland GOP from the Andy Harris federal side into the Maryland GOP, which is perfectly legitimate to do. There's no limit on it, but it precedes an appointment or a voting in of Nicole Harris to become the chair.
You said that that's legitimate. It's legitimate for campaigns to contribute to the GOP?
Yeah. There's no limit.
I could see it as an individual, but I didn't think it.
Nah. Okay. Look, the FEC, they'll give you some basic rules on the FEC, Federal Election Commission. Individuals are limited to $3,300 for the primary, $3,300 for the general, or a total of $6,600. Right. The PACs are limited to, a regular PAC is limited to $4,999, I believe is the number, that can go into a congressional campaign or Senate campaign committee. And it's $15,000 for a super PAC. Yeah. It's 15. So those are the basic parameters. A lot of other rules and regulations that go with out there. But since we're calling it out and we're talking about public stuff here, it came up the other evening. So I gave an example of some of the unscrupulous things that take place in the case of finance and FEC. So if you go, there's all public record, guys. I'm not telling you anything that I went out and hired a PI to come up with. So if you go to fec.gov, you can type in anybody's name, mine, anybody who's a candidate. There's 12,000 in there, by the way. at the FEC. A lot of guys registered. And if you go in there, you can look these things up and you can see what they're really doing.
Well, that's a very long answer to how was the debate?
It was great. Mike, when you edit that, you can take it out.
No, I appreciate your point of view. And by the way, just for the record and in fairness, we did send out an invitation to Mr. Harris to see if he wanted to also do this either with you or by himself. Excuse me. And he expressed gratitude through his spokesperson that he expressed gratitude for the offer. His response was that the leadership at the House has announced deadlines for the appropriation bills and that there was no time for campaigning between now and Tuesday. So I just want to throw that out there that we did ask so that they would be fair in that regard.
Well, I got one quick follow up on that.
Yeah.
In the event that Andy Harris loses, okay, will his wife still remain chair?
Yes.
Do you think she will continue to want to remain chair? Or can someone?
Well, that's speculation.
Yeah, well, speculation. Well, is there? What is the process to elect a new chair?
I believe the position is voted in for 2 years at a time.
So they have a term.
They do a term. Yeah, they're voted in 2 years at a time, is my recollection of it. I think she's up for re-election this year. Okay. So she was voted in 2022.
So the same time as the.
That's my understanding of it. I'm not. I didn't read that portion of it in their
and who
charter.
votes? Who votes on that?
They do. The Maryland GOP does.
GOP does.
Yeah, the
right.
GOP does. What they're voted in and out by the Central Committee members. So all your
the Central Committee and the state GOP and the Central Committee also.
The state is actually
a combination of
the state Central Committee is the state Central Committee.
I got you. Okay.
And then you have your county Central Committee.
I got you. Okay.
And our county Central Committee here, I believe, is 12 people. Others are larger, and it's based on the number of districts they have within their county. So you get into Montgomery County, which is much larger districts, have a much larger Central Committee.
Well, I'm going to pull it back because we're not running for Central Committee and we're not running for state GOP leadership.
Yep.
And in fairness to Ms. Harris, I'm not going to.
It sounds like a Tea Party is needed.
Okay, Captain.
Time for a Tea Party.
Well, let's pause for a second. I'm going to come back, obviously, to this, and then some of the guys are going to have some questions too here. But let's go back to before this campaign, just real quick, just as much time as you want, but for the next minute or two, tell us about Chris Bruneau. Where are you from? What's your background?
My background. I was born in Baltimore. My folks moved to Harford County in Forest Hill here in 1969.
Oh, okay.
And so I attended school out here until 1974. And I ended up going to military school after that in Virginia. My folks eventually moved back to Baltimore County and then back out here again. I ultimately graduated after my folks moved back to Baltimore County from Delaney in 1979.
Okay.
And I actually enlisted in the Army 22 November 78, went on delayed entry program. And it just seemed logical.
Was your dad military as well? Or?
Hey, World War II vet.
Okay.
He was
you were in the Army, you said, right?
Yeah, I was in the Army. Yeah. So I enlisted 22 November 78, delayed entry program, graduated high school, went on to active duty July 29th, 1979. Started as an infantryman. And when it was assigned to the 3rd Infantry Old Guard, ended up getting injured in my shoulder and got reclassified in the Adjutant General Corps and ended up in a duty station in Fort Benjamin Harrison, Indiana, in doing a job in what's called combat development. It was a combat development project NCO. I was at private E2 sitting in an E6 slot as a staff sergeant, in a staff sergeant slot, doing combat development stuff. And the reason I got put into this, I'll tell you why, because to be in the 3rd Infantry Old Guard, you had to have a top secret clearance. So here I was a buck private with a top secret security clearance, now in the Adjutant General Corps, and they had this opening, and that's how I got picked up for
Wow.
this position. And I got to tell you guys, it was so fascinating.
I bet.
As I was 19 years old, and my job, and I was in the program management division. My job was to take all the classified information and redistribute it to the 8 divisions within the Combat Development Directorate. So I had to read everything that came through and decide who it went to. So far as projects that were being worked on. The M1 Abrams tank was still on the drawing boards. The M2 Bradley fighting vehicle was still on the drawing boards. The Humvees were still on the drawing boards. If you don't know, the Humvee comes from heavy multi-purpose wheel vehicle system. That's where that came from. So I'm reading all this stuff as a 19-year-old kid. I was like, I have no idea what I'm really looking. It's like, I just want to go have a beer with the guys,
Right.
But now I look back on it, and I was being exposed to what was called the Army 86 studies. It was the development of the new land warfare doctrine. So it was a real big eye opener for me as a young man in the Army at 19. I got shipped overseas from there. I did 3 years in Central America. And really enjoyed that in the Republic of Panama. That was during the Sandinista-Contra wars down in Central America. So it was a real tense time to be down in Central America. While I was there, I ended up being put into a job as a legal clerk for a year and a half. So I worked with JAG officers for a year and a half. They just said, you seem to have the aptitude for this, Bruneau. So they put me to work in the legal office as a legal clerk. I was like, I really like this. And so I had some aspirations about pursuing what they called the FLEPS program, Funded Legal Education Program in the Army. But what came out is interesting. I was reading Soldier Magazine one day, and they always put in their understrength jobs where they're looking for volunteers. And there's a little article about that big. And Soldier Magazine said, Army deep sea diver. I said, Army's got deep sea divers. And I went, wow. I said,
What don't they have?
it's like, I want to be one of those. So, I managed to get on orders to go to the Military District of Washington, and got to Arlington Hall Station in the Military District of Washington, and I volunteered to be a deep sea diver. It took me a year to get into that school.
Wow.
It's arduous process just to get into the school.
Difficult process.
And just amazing what I had to go through to get there. And so what's even more amazing is getting to the school. 5 months of just absolute torture. And but I got the MOS award at 00 Bravo. And so I finished out my time on active duty as a 00 Bravo deep sea diver. Left active duty in 89, went into the reserves for 3 years. Got married. That wasn't gelling. So I just stuck it out as a civilian. And some years later, I actually got a commission in what they call the Maryland Militia, Maryland Defense Force. It's part of the Guard. And so I got commissioned as an officer, a captain, to do that for 4 years. So I'm back in the uniform. I was in my 40s when I did that, I guess. And so that's the extent of my military experience. During that time, in the 90s, I tried new homes construction, didn't do well with that, got my hat handed to me by all the builders here in Harford County. But the thing that I was blessed with was in 1999 was being introduced to the guy who owned the Paul Davis franchise in Baltimore. It's a fire and water restoration type franchise. Yeah. And I learned business. Jerry, my boss, was a Harvard MBA. Took this guy who thought, being a tough guy gets you through everything, right? Well, you need a little bit of tutelage from somebody to teach you some business principles. And I learned the art of reading profit and loss statements, balance sheets, determining proper markups when you're selling things. The list goes on. And this man taught me for 4 years. And he said, now you need to buy your own franchise.
So it's like an apprenticeship you had there.
Yeah, and that's not what I expected when I went there.
Right, that's cool.
He said, I'll teach you this business and I'll teach you business. And so every Saturday until I was done at 9 o'clock, I would go down there and see Jerry in Woodlawn.
Was he getting out of the business, or he was just wanting?
He's just a good guy.
Pushing you in.
He's just a good guy.
Good.
And so he taught me business, and then I bought this franchise that I own up here now in 2004.
Okay.
So that's my business background, and I've learned a lot from Jerry. I learned a lot of my own made a lot of mistakes, learned from the mistakes. So let me use that as a segue into why I'm running, besides to represent the people. One of the things that spurred this on was the insanity of what we're spending, the deficit spending. As we all know, it's crazy, and it's like so we got our bills that are presented, the spending bills. You ever read a spending bill?
No, I value my life too much.
If you're not into financial stuff, it's a great way to go to sleep. So I'm reading these bills. I was like allocating for this, and this, and I was like, all right, that's the allocation. Now, how is it really being spent? How are we checking this?
Right.
They got to audit it and they don't do it.
It's even easier than that. All the money that's spent is published by the Treasury every month. Actually, it's daily. And you get a monthly Treasury report, and you can read how every branch of the bureaucracy is spending their money. Every last penny. But take that back.
At a certain level.
Minus the
At a certain level.
minus the Pentagon, yeah.
At a certain level.
They can't
No,
find
it's all
it.
in there.
They can't find it. They can't
Oh,
find
well,
it.
let me tell you where it's hidden. You want to know where it's hidden? I'll tell you when it.
I do.
Okay. So this is what I discovered, guys. You get a great kick out of this. So under the Constitution, when the Treasury is required to report from time to time their expenditures, what they spend. Now, Congress collects the revenue under Article 1. They allocate it. That's what they're allowed to do. But the Treasury accounts for it. So Pentagon wants to buy this. They say they do the requisition. They send it over to the Treasury Department. They write a check for it. They pay Boeing for an airplane, helicopter, whatever.
Without a door.
Without a door, yeah, that's optional. So then the Treasury writes the check to Boeing for that, and that ends up on that monthly Treasury report. So I'm reading this report, and I'm fascinated by it. I just love this because thanks to my friend Jerry Levine, I enjoy this sort of information. Now, here's the two things that jumped out from reading that report. Number one, all those little asterisks on there. And there's a double asterisk entry on some of these line items. I was like, I got to scroll down here and see what this means. A double asterisk entry on that Treasury report means that the item that they spent money on is less than $500,000, and therefore it is not required to be reported. So I'll tell you a little fun I had with this. I do civics classes. I go out and I love going out and sharing with people what I've learned. So I did one with the Republican women of Cecil County, and I took up 40 copies of that Treasury report and handed them out. It was a wonderful time. So I said, okay, ladies, what's what I want you to do? I said, I want you to go through, and I said, I want you to add up the double asterisks, because I told them what they were. And I get all these great, and they're just having a blast. And they're adding up. I came up with, I said, now multiply it times 500,000. And I said, let's see what, and you got all these answers being yelled on what they're coming up with. It's tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. Oh, yeah. And it's not being accounted for. So, to get to my point, legislatively, they say, Chris, you got all this great knowledge. What are you going to do when you get there? First thing, piece of legislation. Guys, we're not doing that anymore. The Constitution doesn't say it doesn't meet a threshold requirement, so therefore it's not reported. The Constitution says you're going to report it. So every nickel that's in that category, you're going to report it. No more this rounding error stuff. No more double asterisks. Because, gentlemen, that's where, remember that, what was it, $300 toilet seats and $600 hammers?
Right.
$600 hammers, yeah.
That's where that stuff is.
Yeah.
So my point to you is this, and I'll conclude by saying this. If we want to control government spending, we need to look at where it's going, and we need to stop that. We need to bring that under control. And I believe, gentlemen, we can find a lot of wasteful spending out there by looking at that report. And I can tell you this, guys, gentlemen, nobody's reading that report. Those guys are just spending. Nobody's reading that report. Because I've asked 3 guys who are currently elected there.
Would you consider that like your defining moment as to like this is what propelled you to just get in at that point? Or
actually, Mike, it's what changed the the direction of my my motives for what I'm doing.
Right.
When I opened the other evening with the debate, I was like, I started out April with I'm going to be the grand legislator of Congressional District 1. I'm going to do all these wonderful things, and I start reading these things like these reports from the treasurer. It's like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can be able to do all those things. So it redefined what I was going to be able to redefine a plan. It wasn't going to be shotgun dude. Go all. I just said this helped me define a plan, and that is getting that treasury report straightened out, have them properly reporting everything on there for one. Number two is that they use an accounting method which is accepted. However, it's not correct because we don't zero our debt out every year, so they got to change. They got to change their accounting method, and a few other things in there as well. And so far as spending bills are concerned, guys, if you didn't know this, this is the third thing that I will be seeking to implement again. There was a moratorium from 2011 to 2021 on earmarks or pork barrel spending.
Right.
Everybody should know what that is, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So there was a moratorium on it from 2011 to 2021. It came up for a vote. Do we extend the moratorium or do we let it lapse? What do you think they did?
Of course they let it lapse.
They let it lapse. So
Did not know that.
oh yeah. So here's some more information. This is my civics lessons, gentlemen.
Yeah,
This is not campaign stuff. These are just facts I glean that I share with folks when I campaign.
Sure.
And this is what it's not. I'm trying to inspire people to vote for me. I'm trying to get people to inspire to say, maybe I need to look into what my government's doing.
Oh, well, here's a devil's advocate a minute. Aren't you still trying to inspire people to vote for you, though? Because, I mean, you got to
you're right.
separate yourself, right, from the pack, so to speak, and say, hey, I'm your guy.
Yeah,
And-
yeah, and I'm, and you're absolutely right, Mike. But I'm going to let them draw that conclusion.
Okay.
Let them draw that, not go up there and give some glib answer.
I got you.
You know,
Yeah, I see.
and be able to do a nice song and dance for them. Tell folks the facts and say, are you with me? Because it's a team effort.
Right.
These people, you all
Well,
need.
let me ask you this. You want to get rid of the asterisk. You want to have all that accountability. You want it all shown. How will you do that? Because what's the process? I mean, doesn't everybody have to vote and say, okay, we want all these double asterisks. We want all of that accounting to be shown where all that money's going. Now, if you're the only one saying, I want it shown, and everybody else says, yeah, I'm good the way it was. Same thing was, yeah, I'm good with the pork. I like the pork. More pork, please. If you're the only one saying no pork and we're going to get rid of these double asterisks, what then?
In answer to your question, you've got myself and a handful. Last midterm, 5% of the incumbents were voted out. So we've got a momentum going with other conservatives like myself who are not conservatives. We're pragmatic. We're realistic. We know what's going on. We're not going to sugarcoat this thing. We're going to tell you like it is. I got no reason to sugarcoat it. I'm not even there yet. So to answer your question, this is what I believe the correct answer is, the truthful answer. Constitutionally, they have to report that. So if the Treasury report does not comply with the Constitution, because it doesn't say you can limit things, it says everything. It doesn't have an asterisk in there.
So if they're violating the Constitution now, what are the recourses? What's the
The
ramifications?
recourse is just simply to go to the Treasury and say, by the Constitution, you have to do this. And if they fight on it, then
Will you get a subpoena it?
the Treasury report.
Yeah, to
Well,
put
you
it
don't have
on
to
there.
subpoena it. It's public record.
But it's not on there.
What's that?
The
The information. Oh, I see
Yeah,
what you're
the
saying.
information.
Yeah, the information. I think personally, since the congressmen at Congress and congressmen had the responsibility and the authority, I don't even think they need a subpoena. They can walk right across the street to the Department of Health and Human Services and say, "I'd like to sit down with your CFO and review your books."
Okay. So you have the purse string power. So you have basically what you're saying is you have the authority as a congressperson, or certainly as a group, better yet, of congressmen and women.
As long as the group agrees.
Well, and I hear what he's saying. I think of, let's go to the other side of the fence here for a second.
Okay.
Talk people like AOC,
Right.
who, they're the lone wolf crying in the wilderness on the Green Deal, right? But then, little by little, they get the what do they call them? The not the posse. What is that?
The squad.
The squad. The squad that comes together. Now you have 4, 5, 6.
Right.
Eventually, you get 4, 5, or 6 wanting these numbers out there, and they're going to the Treasury Department, and they can get it. According to what you're saying, they can get these numbers. And now, what's stopping you from publishing them? Nothing.
And again, I'm just going to simply say you're not in compliance with the Constitution. You must start reporting it this way. They say no. Then what's the next step?
Can you report it?
Well, the Treasury Department is under the executive branch.
No, the Treasury Department's under the Congress.
Under Congress?
The Fed-
so it's Article 2?
The Fed is separate. Treasury is under Congress.
Treasury's under Congress.
Treasury is under Congress, yes.
That makes
So
sense.
Treasury has the authority to go in there and say, do this.
So the DEA, when it was under the Treasury Department, that was the executive branch. So how's that? Did they move the DEA out of them? Because they were under the Department of the Treasury, but they were actually absolutely law enforcement, which is under the executive department.
I think then they reorganized all that
It must
over
have
the
been
years.
after 9/11.
Yeah, right after 9/11, all that got
Homeland.
reorganized because we got Department of Homeland Security, and I think
Correct.
that became the all-encompassing out.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense because it never used to be that
because
way.
DEA, it makes sense if they were under Treasury because they were seizing assets that would become capital or assets. In
And
the
so
United
was
States.
and so was the Secret Service.
You've answered probably 3 or 4 questions with that answer. Did you have a question? Because it seemed like you were about to ask something earlier, or am I?
I see you taking
I got a
notes
few
over there,
questions. I got a
Randy.
few questions.
Go ahead.
We've got
Right,
questions.
yeah.
So I guess my question to Chris is, look, that everything you said is everything that I think most voters who are at least following, what Congress does agrees with, right? Yeah, we got to be accountable for our money and that sort of thing, right? But reality says, right, we got to bring those numbers down to regardless, right? Regardless of what happens at the lowest level, we've got to bring those numbers down, the spending numbers down, right? Whether you can count for every single nickel or not, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever get there. And I guess it's a valiant pursuit, but I'm not sure we're going to be successful at that. That said, I guess I have some questions more policy related, right? From a local perspective and from a national perspective, I see my congressman as, I want him to understand his constituents and what they really want. Again, pork is a reality. I don't like pork, but it's a reality. I live in reality, and in my world that I live in professionally, I see it every day. So pork's a reality. So what locally are you fighting for, or would you fight for differently from the incumbent? From I'll call it pork. Just call it what it is, right? Bringing congressional ads and that sort of thing into the local district. And then national policy. Well, I focus on a little bit more of the defense policy and national defense policy and Israel, Ukraine, China, is the big ones in my mind right now. I'd like to get your thoughts on those. And there's, from the Republican Party, there's been a lot of turmoil as far as, do we support this? To support Ukraine or not? Do we support Israel or not? I'd like to get your feel for that. So, two questions: kind of local things that you would do differently from Andy Harris as an incumbent right now. What you would push for financially, and then from a national defense perspective, do you support what we're doing with Ukraine? How would you change that? Same with Israel, and then perhaps China. Even get into that conversation.
Okay.
We'll see you tomorrow while you prepare the answer.
No. Sorry, you asked me. You look at me.
It's a good question.
These are both in my wheelhouse.
Okay, great.
And
As a former warfighter, I would think the second would absolutely be in your wheelhouse.
it definitely is.
And something you would have
But
a
and you're absolutely right on that. But I'm gonna address it more from a less militarily and more fiscally. when I get to the foreign policy portion of your question, the foreign policy question. Let's go with the domestic side first.
Okay.
And one of the little known facts is that a congressman gets a staff of 22. So they do various things, scheduling and so forth. And one of the things that they have is liaisons. And I've met the liaisons that are in the 1st Congressional District. And I can tell you those liaisons, their sole function is to be out there on behalf of the congressman to make sure he gets reelected. They're supposedly there for constituent services. We need a visa or whatever. That's fine and dandy. But here's what I've learned since campaigning, and where this started was in Mako. And Mako, meeting the watermen and meeting the farmers. These three things. Now, Mako is the Maryland Association of Counties. Yeah. They meet annually, I believe, in Ocean City. Yeah. And I attended that event, and I went in there, gentlemen, really unaware what we were going to do. And I saw these vendor booths. I was like, this is a dog and pony show, right?
Right.
And so my friend Phil Dumanel, who's a county commissioner, took me to various forums that were taking place. And it was so interesting as it unfolded. And Johnny Olszewski conducted one, and then there was one conducted by the executive from Anne Arundel County, and then there was somebody headed up from Carroll County. These were the three I attended. They dealt with broadband. One dealt with the deer population, and another one dealt with something else. And I think it was some environmental thing that was going on. And it was environmental. And this was the most fascinating thing. You had in this room, the panel up here, us sitting here is the audience, if you will. And you had Democrats and Republicans sitting in front of you. And nobody said Democrat or Republican, but I knew from the makeup of the room, certain people I knew, they were Democrats and Republicans. And they're all getting up making presentations about how they're working together to solve the problem of treating sewage, of dealing with getting the broadband in, of dealing with the deer population. Nobody is there blaming the other person. Yeah, we can't kill the deer because that Republican over there did this or the Democrat over there. Nobody's blaming anybody. They're all talking about how they're working for the people, regardless of their party. They're up there working for the people that elected them in their counties or their towns, wherever they're
at
from.
the local level.
At the local level.
Exactly.
So I'm like, all right, that was the first one. Let me go to the second one, see if this is a one-off. I go to the second one. And the same thing. And the third one. And finally, I left there. I said, Phil, I don't think I need to see anymore. Because I've concluded after seeing these three presentations what needs to be done by the congressman. He showed up. Andy Harris showed up, by the way, at Mako that day. Did a glad hand, 10 minutes, got his picture taken and left. He didn't attend anything. I stayed. I was there for most of the day, but I did other things besides these forums. And this is what I concluded. And I share this everywhere I go. The congressman representing Maryland's 1st Congressional District needs to get involved with county councils, attend their meetings, needs to go to, if they're a non-charter county, go to their commissioner meetings. You got to meet the mayors of these towns. And that's what I've done. And I've gone out and introduced myself to folks. And I said, this is what I'm going to do when I'm your congressman. I'm going to, as often as possible, attend your council meetings. I want to hear what the people are coming up here talking about, because it's them listening to the people. There's where you get what's going on. Now, look, that's local legislation. There's a congressman can't do anything about that. But you got to know what's on people's minds. You got to know what's important to them. Is there funding that maybe can be obtained to assist them in a sewage project, broadband? And even if there's nothing there, there's the solidarity of the team effort, that military concept, right? Working together in unison to try to achieve that goal of serving the people. That's what we're here for. And I've made that commitment to people and I got to tell you, the jubilation on the faces of people when you say, they go, really? And so I took it one step further, and I've done the same with the watermen. I've been to about a half a dozen Waterman meetings, and they're just ecstatic about me attending these events.
Yeah, just showing up is half the battle.
Oh yeah, and listening. You got to listen to them. You got to listen to what's going on. The last one I attended was I'm going to another one Monday in Kent County. The last one was in Queen Anne's County. It was a 2-hour meeting, guys. George O'Donnell was there. He's the local DNR guy. Phil Dumanel, the local commissioner, was there. And this thing started at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock in the morning, this meeting began, and it was 1 hour and 55 minutes of dealing with all of the onerous regulations of the state of Maryland and all this bull crap stopping these guys from catching fish, catching crabs and lugs and tags and photos and so forth. Yep. And I was just like, my head was spinning.
Sure.
And they spent 5 minutes on how they're going to make a living. Hour and 55 minutes dealing with government regulation and 5 minutes on how they're going to catch a fish.
We need to get rid of Chevron deference to get rid of all these ABC agencies that think they have the power to make law with changing rules, and that's not the way to do it. You can't do it that way, and that's going away in June because the Supreme Court's getting ready to smack that right over the head.
Exactly.
And once that's gone, Congress and the legislature are going to have to get off their ass and make laws instead of giving their authority away to all these ABC agencies, FDAs, and all these other agencies that just implement rules and make law without any acts of Congress whatsoever. It just can't happen anymore, and that's going to go away.
Yep,
that's going away.
And again, that's
EPA, all that.
I listen to Harriet Hageman all the time. You ever watch her?
I have not. No.
She's the congresswoman at large for Wyoming. She is amazing when she does the commentary on precisely that subject. Mm-hmm. She's an attorney, and she takes that subject matter and ties it in with the Constitution and the ABCs, and she does an amazing job of presenting that. And but if you're not attending these events, how do you know what's going on? How do you support the people? And look, they don't believe that I can go down to Washington, D.C. and wave my magic legislative wand and make it all go away. They want to know that Johnny Mouts, the senator, and who represents them there, or Chris Adams, one of their delegate, or Tom Hutchinson, their other delegate, is in working with me, and we're working as a team, or Jay Jacobs and Steve Arntzen and Steve Hershey over in the other. These are the three main people that are representing the watermen. And I've got to know these people. And they're like, where's our congressman? He's down there dealing with something, and he doesn't have time for this.
Yeah.
So you got to make time for the people you're representing, because I'm not running against Andy Harris, right?
Right.
I'm running for the people.
For the people.
And I plan to be out there. And guys, I tell you what, you travel this district, it's beautiful out there.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to places I've never been to before in Maryland. I didn't know existed.
Right.
And it's amazing, and the people are absolutely fantastic.
So how about the national side?
And on the national side,
He's itching over there. He's itching.
No, I was getting ready to do that transition.
Thank you, gentlemen, for keeping me on point here.
That's all right. That's all right. You got as much time as you have.
Thank you. So on the national side, I'll tell you this, gentlemen, when the Ukraine was invaded and I saw the first pictures come from wherever news source it was, and I saw buildings blown up that people lived in the day before. And when I saw, I don't know how graphic they got with all that, I cried. Here we are in the 21st century. We have the most modern technology in the world to keep our country safe. Every nation in the world is capable of, whether they do it or not, it's another story, of providing for their citizens. Why are we doing this? Why are we killing each other? Haven't we evolved as a species well enough that we don't need to kill each other anymore? I cried. I spent 3 years in Germany. That was my other tour that I did overseas while I was on active duty. And I was there when the Warsaw Pact existed. The Warsaw Pact, I'm over here and they're over there. And it was the Iron Curtain, and I've been to Berlin, and I've seen what these look like. I was there. I experienced the tension. I was there for every alert that went off when they said that the Russians were coming down the Fulda Gap in their T-72s. I watched the Nike missile systems go down from Fliegerhorst Kaserne past Wolfgang. Scared me to death to think the balloon was going up. And that stopped. President Reagan got rid of that. The Iron Curtain came down. The wall came down. I remember seeing that wall. Mm-hmm. And there's a piece of it over in the museum, by the way, in D.C., if you haven't seen it. It's amazing. So here we are, we get to that war, and I'm devastated by it. I said, this is wrong. And so should we support them? Yes, we need to support them as an ally. Should we throw money into it? Guys, we're, by the way, the number's 28 trillion debt. If you wanted me to explain to you why that is, I would digress to that in a minute.
28 trillion debt?
Yeah, 28 trillion is the public debt.
I thought it was closer to 33 to 35.
I'll tell you the difference in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
So it's on that FEC report.
Yeah, I know 27 sounds kind of low ball.
Yeah, I got you.
Isn't that
Well,
shame? That's kind of odd. That's so low.
When you study the Treasury report, that's where that comes from.
Okay.
And anyway, so wantonly putting monies out there is not the solution. We can support them militarily without getting NATO involved. If we have weapon systems that we can provide to them, let's do that. We can bring soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, whatever they have in their country, bring them to this country. We can train them. I observed that when I was on active duty. That was a given. On all the military installations I was on, we always had foreigners there being trained, and they would go back and then they would train their folks. There's ways we can support them militarily with putting our soldiers, our sailors, our airmen, our Marines in harm's way in these foreign lands. I don't think we should be sending our people to fight these foreign wars.
No, I think most people agree with that.
Oh,
I guess the question is, should we be sending our money that could be, billions of dollars that could be invested internally in the U.S. and other things? Is it a wise investment?
No, it's not.
To push back on the
No,
Russians
it's not.
and Ukraine.
Let me further answer the question this way. Maybe you don't know this. The European Union in February already gave Ukraine $58 billion. Why, this short period of time later, do they need another $95 billion? If you read the spending bill, it's not really money. Did anybody read the spending bill?
They're paying for people's pensions and everything else over there.
Well, the spending bill doesn't call for that. The spending bill is actually, it's actually, if you read the spending bill, it's allocated to the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and Space Force. And they broke the monies down into those categories, and they fall into these different branches of the Department of Defense.
Are you talking about the bill that just passed?
Yeah, the bill that just passed.
I wasn't on.
You read that bill. Yeah. They broke it down. It goes to all the branches of the service in the Department of Defense. And the majority of it's going in for developing new weapon systems. And we're going to give them our old stuff while we get new stuff. So I guess all those companies that do all that defense building of systems and so forth, their stock's going to go up.
Military complex.
Yeah,
Because the vast majority of that money is going to our U.S. industrial complex.
And that's fine. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But it's borrowed again. We're borrowing it.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the bad side.
Yep.
So, but you read further down into the bill, this is the one that probably pissed me off. Can I say that on this?
Yes,
absolutely.
We've heard worse.
better than being pissed on.
They put $495 million in there for Ukrainian refugees. And I'm like, but what about our homeless people? What about our homeless veterans?
Exactly.
Why are we putting $495 million in there for people that aren't even citizens of this country? And gentlemen, there was a bunch of those allocations in there. There were 2 allocations in there of some nebulous number of $1.5 billion for the president to do with whatever he wanted. That's going to extend out to September of 2024.
Our president or theirs?
Not quite sure. It just said
good point.
It didn't
One
say
and the same.
It didn't say Biden. It just said the president.
Well, if it would have said the big guy, we would have known who
Well,
that
that's
was.
true. That would have given it away.
Would have given it away. Right?
Gotcha. So I'm going to go reread that, Mike, to see if we can clarify that. So if they just got $58 billion, why did we do another? Why did we do this? What is the basis for this? And furthermore, this. Let me elucidate just on a couple more details. So Israel was included in that, and of course they're supposed to benefit from these.
So this was an omnibus bill, then it was a bunch of.
It was an omnibus.
It was a big,
it was an omnibus
cluster.
Bill. Exactly. So you got, and the 2 other big players in there, of course, are Israel and Taiwan. Well, I did the research on this bill as it was coming up for a vote, and that's, again, that's what I like to do with this, is research what's going into this. And that's why I make the comment about the European Union. The European Union is composed of 27 countries. No, it's 26 countries. No, 27 countries, and they have, their European Union actually has an economy equivalent Their GDP is equivalent to the United States. And
All of them combined.
That's why they did it. They wanted to have a combined GDP that gives them that buying power, and they actually have a better bond rating than the United States.
But
Now,
England's no longer in it.
correct.
They pulled out.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's that.
Brexit.
Yeah, but so they have the ability, and they've done so because look, they're the ones that are being threatened, not us. If Putin keeps on going,
So
west,
they're sure.
yeah, oh yeah. So they better do something, or we're going to be back to where it was when I was in Europe in the 80s. It's going to be back to a Warsaw Pact and NATO, which is what Putin would ultimately like to have. When Yeltsin gave him the reins, whatever year that was, when he went away, and Putin came in, that's when all this started. So, the ridiculous part, so far as the funding is concerned, with Israel and with Taiwan, two countries that have amazing economies, they can borrow. They have surpluses of cash. And Taiwan in particular has like low poverty, low unemployment. They have an amazing. They're the number one chip manufacturer in the world.
Yeah.
So admittedly, even the congressman the other day admitted the money should have been lent to them. If they needed a loan, lend it to them. Right. Get it back, and just make sure it's a good rate of interest, and don't forgive it. So that's my feeling about this. But gentlemen, these guys and ladies down there in Washington, D.C., they do this without an ounce of compunction. They put forth these spending bills, and look, that spending bill was sponsored by two Republicans.
Correct. So you're saying you would have voted against this bill, correct?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I would have gone out and said, gentlemen, they just got $58 billion. And I would have told my constituents about it. So how are you going to justify doing this? Okay. And then you're talking about two economies in the world that don't need anything. Why are we doing this? I would have really fought hard, even getting the thing to the floor. And gentlemen, you can tell I get a little excited about this. I'm not quiet about this. I'm gonna be very, very vocal about what I'm doing. I'm not gonna get out and just be passive about it.
Okay. So
Did I adequately
You
answer your
did,
question?
yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, appreciate it.
now we're going to piggyback on this. Now,
Okay.
now we're fired up on this bill that got passed. It should have never got passed. Johnson, Speaker of the House.
Yes.
I just saw you look down.
I did this.
You know where it's coming.
Yeah.
You know where it's coming.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we're in an election year.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're kind of in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
And he kind of had to work with the hand that was dealt. I know that's kind of a cop out. You said you would have voted against the bill, and I agree. I would have voted against the bill too. You know that lovely lady Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So she's trying to have him removed. I think she's going to bring it up for a vote, right?
Next week, yes.
Next week. Here's the $1 million question.
Yeah, I see this one coming.
Are you voting him out? Would you vote if you were in there right now? Would you vote him out for that, or are you taking the pause because of an election year so we don't have infighting? Tell me your thoughts about that and why. What would you do?
In answering that question, I don't know that I have. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene's been in there since 2020 now. Yeah. She came into office 3 days before the January 6th event. And so she's been there, 4 years now, I guess. So she's got enough experience, I think, to maybe put forth the question of whether or not Mike Johnson should be voted out.
Well, she's very vocal.
She's very vocal
about him wanting him out.
Yeah, and I don't think she's getting a lot of support on that. Let me tell you, my sense of it, as I said the other day, I'm not going to recant on this. It was asked the question at the League of Women Voters Forum. Anybody who was for this bill, as far as I'm concerned, should have been voted out of office. Everybody, because should never have been done. This is the reason why people should be voted out of office in Washington.
I agree.
So Mike Johnson, he supported that bill. He did it as a Speaker of the House. He did it as a congressman. So as far as I'm concerned, I put him in the whole lot that should be removed because they made a decision to take this country and put it another $95 billion in debt. So forget Speaker of the House. Let's just look at him as a congressman. They all need to be removed.
Sure.
Marjorie Taylor Greene voted against it. Andy Harris voted against it. There were 11 other people who voted against the bill. Everybody else jumped in on it. Why they did it, guys, I can't figure out why they did this. Where did it come from?
But the question is, yes, you think they should all be removed,
Yes.
but would you vote to have them removed? Because you know all the Democrats are going to vote to have him removed, right?
Sure.
Sure. So are you going to stay with the party and keep him, or do you want and risk having Hakeem Jeffries as a speaker possibly, and possibly affect our general election going forward with all the turmoil in the Republican
I see why you're
Party?
asking the question. I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a strategy versus we want we want these people removed, but do we want them removed now at the cost of losing an election?
I see the basis of your question is not the way I looked at it was that they all should go.
Yes, we're on the same page there.
Yeah. So it's from a strategic perspective. Yes, I understand that, and from a strategic perspective, I would say that it would further fracture an already divided party if you go forward with this, and I don't think it's going to materialize.
Right, and it would make us look like a joke.
Exactly, and for her to do this is posturing. It's just getting her a little more limelight out there.
Well, they did it once.
What's that?
They've already done it once.
That was Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, well, that was Matt Gaetz who did that. But do you know, there's a little known fact, and it's just, again, these are facts, gentlemen. I tell you facts today. Facts either I've read, I've researched, and I make sure that they're accurate before I broadcast them. The underlying reason, I believe, why McCarthy was voted out, because of the deal he made with the devil, and the devil in this case is Joe Biden. He did that negotiation of the debt ceiling. Remember, Janet Yellen comes out, the debt ceiling, the debt ceiling, the debt ceiling. Mm-hmm. And so they do the debt ceiling thing. He makes a deal with Biden. Do you know how he sealed that deal with Biden? Do you know what deal he made?
I don't remember.
The debt ceiling was removed in its entirety. The country is currently operating with a no debt ceiling. McCarthy handed him the congressional credit card without a credit limit, and said you have no credit limit until January 3rd, 2025. There is no debt ceiling, and they are spending like mad.
January 2025. So then the debt ceiling comes back. Then what's the ceiling?
They're right. I don't know. At the time, I guess it would probably have been 30-some trillion. I don't know what it was, but
so they'll have to vote to list it again.
Whatever, probably will be whatever it comes to be at that time.
Basically, they kicked the can down the road.
Well, they did more than that. They took the lid off of Pandora's box and they left it wide open. And there's no attempt at all to stop that. So, and within 43 days of that deal, McCarthy making that deal with Biden, the national debt went up $1.7 trillion.
Yeah.
So you say January 2025?
January 3rd, 2025. That is when everybody
right when the new
That's when the next Congress gets sworn in.
So to answer Jim's question, then you would not vote to vacate at this point. Obviously, you think he should possibly go because he voted for it. And I think a lot of people agree.
It would just cause more controversy, more upheaval. Look, they could barely.
Well, there's other reasons. There's other ways.
Yeah, exactly.
To get one, primaries.
Right.
Two, you vote on a speaker after the first of the year anyway. So there's your chance.
Yeah, sure.
So I agree with I think what you were indicating, which was pause.
Strategically, it's not
get through the election.
Yeah, we can't have that happen again. Right in the middle of a really.
They got away with it once. Okay, I get it. McCarthy did the bad thing. But
really bad.
This whole vacate thing is tearing us apart.
Well, it makes us look like a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing.
And the Democrats are just salivating.
Right. They all stick together. Doesn't matter what it is. They stick together. They all vote together.
They can't wait to vote about it.
We can stick together like them.
Oh my God.
As conservatives.
Oh.
Imagine the outcome.
The government would still be shut down.
Yeah. My statement, I often end up when we get into these.
Go ahead.
My statement, where we get down to when we have these debates like this in these forums, when I'm campaigning or having civics discussions, I say this, ladies and gentlemen: if the Congress for 1 year could stop being Democrat, stop being Republican, and just be Americans for 1 year, can you imagine what we could accomplish?
Kind of like for the few weeks after 9/11.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where that came from, Mike. Okay. That's where that came from. And that lasted what?
And that's why I get back to the the hard lines between the different parties, and there's got to be negotiations between the parties. It's being Americans and getting things done, and things like continuing resolutions are doing nothing for. It's the world I live in. It absolutely does nothing, and it puts us behind in terms of trying to keep up with our peers. Let's just put it that way, in the defense sector. So. We got to work. We got to work together, and I hate to see this bifurcated kind of.
Well, I like the fact
part of government because we're getting nothing done, and there's got to be a meeting of the minds.
We're at a serious disadvantage to countries like China and the Soviet Union. Well, I'm sorry, Russia, no longer Soviet Union, because they're in power.
They're playing the long game.
Well, they're in power.
Yeah, absolutely. They can.
They never change their leadership. Okay,
Exactly.
so their leadership is in there for life, basically.
Yeah.
And so they can have a plan and a goal, and they can achieve it over 10, 15, 20, 30 years while they're in power. We change every 4 years, most possibly, and then when somebody gets in 4 years later, they nix this, and no longer you're going EV, and you don't have gas cars, and I mean just stuff like that. But the same mentality in strategic and military defense. We get 4 years, and if the next administration comes in, they can nix the whole program, and all you did was blow money, and you spin your wheels while your adversaries continue down the path that they want to go, and they see it to fruition, and we can't catch up.
Yeah. No.
You guys want to hear something funny
yeah.
about the debt? I'll read this to you.
About that.
This is a lesson about the debt. U.S. tax revenue, this is old, okay? This is not current dollars. This is from a while ago. U.S. tax revenue, $2,170 billion. Federal budget, $3,820 billion. New debt, $1,650 billion. National debt, $14,271 billion. Recent budget cuts, $38,500 billion. So now let's remove 8 zeros and pretend it's a household budget.
Oh, I've seen this. Yeah, that's funny.
It's
Yeah.
good. It's good. It's true, though.
It's absolutely true.
It's absolutely true. So okay, so now we're talking about a family. We're going to remove some zeros. Annual family income, $21,700. Money the family spent, $38,200. New debt is $16,500. Outstanding balance on the credit card, $142,710. Total budget cuts, $38.50.
Wow.
Okay, so got it so far? Everybody got it so far? Okay, so lesson number 2. Here's another way to look at it. Let's say you come home from work and find there has been a sewage backup in your neighborhood, and your home has sewage all the way up to your ceilings. What do you think you should do? Raise the ceilings or remove the shed? What do you think you should do?
Not vote some more shit in.
Well, yeah.
Remove the shed.
Yeah.
So, and that's where we are, guys. They just keep on raising the ceiling to allow more to come in, and that's not going to stop without some sort of mechanism.
Okay. Let me ask a stupid question, ignorant question. So we've had the House before, we've had the Senate. When I say we, I mean the conservative Republican Party. And we've done nothing. Nothing.
He said when we had a supermajority, we didn't do anything with it.
We didn't do anything.
We didn't do any. We didn't do anything. No immigration reform. Nothing.
Nothing.
Zero.
Right. So
Didn't even fix healthcare. Didn't even get rid of Obamacare.
Well, I think
we did
I think the
nothing.
problem is
Nothing.
we assumed that the Republican Party was conservative.
We took a big shit in the House that's still full of shit. That's all we did.
right. So
Jim, don't sugarcoat it.
No,
That's
I'm
how I
not.
feel.
No. I guess I get back to okay. So Chris, I like what you're saying. Why should people vote for you? I hear you're very fiscally, conservative and that sort of thing, and I get it, and I'm supportive of that. But in the current state of affairs that we're in, and the current Congress, and that we're in, why should we vote for you? Let's just get to the brass tacks of the matter.
I will. And if you've heard any of the advertising we've done on the radio, our tagline or our mantra is this: nothing changes if nothing changes. And that's what we're talking about here this evening. Is you talked about it. Supermajority, we did nothing. We did this, we did nothing. Nothing's changed.
Right.
And why hasn't anything changed? Because we keep on taking the same people, voting for them over and over again, sending them back there, and expecting a different result.
Term limits.
Exactly. So we keep on sending the same people back there over and over again, expecting a different result. And this machine is designed to get the incumbents back down to Washington, D.C. It's not designed to bring in new blood like me or anybody else at this table who wants to run for office and make a difference. It's not designed. It's designed to keep on cycling. Newt Gingrich is the founder of pork barrel spending for the Republican Party. Did you know that? You read the history on. I got some documents I can send you. Pork barrel spending began in earnest in the 1980s. It's been around forever, but it started really in earnest in 1980. Newt Gingrich, when he became Speaker of the House, until that time, pork barrel spending was limited to the senior people to make sure they kept on coming back year after year. So he removed those restrictions that they had internally so that everybody could get pork barrel spending done out there in their campaigns so they could get reelected. Yeah. Andy Harris, in the last 12 months, has spent $40 million in earmarks on the Eastern Shore. Okay? $40 million. So even though he's got $1 million in his campaign account, he's put out $40 million in earmarks from Stevensville to Greensboro to Ocean City to Somerset County, all over the place. It's a matter of public record. I can show it to you. And
is that a bad thing?
What he's doing it for, it doesn't go.
He's doing it for votes.
He's doing it for votes.
It's just like canceling student debt for votes. It's
but I'm asking. I'm devil's advocate because every congressman does it.
Oh,
every congressman does it.
Well, that's why we got to make the change.
Okay,
it's not going to change if we don't. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And they only do it in a campaign year.
Yeah, exactly.
Not necessarily, but yeah.
No, they do it all the time. But it's actually this year because he needs it more over because he's lost his base. So when he's doing this, he's going to your locally elected officials. Look, I met one guy at the Mako. He was from Dorchester County. I forget his name. And I said, hey, how you doing, Chris Brown? What are you doing? I was like, I'm running for Congress. So, yeah, you're running against Andy Harris. Oh, I'm not going to vote for you. He got us $2 million. I go, well, okay. So I walked away from him. He was like, I can't do that. But I didn't bring my checkbook. So it was the first lesson I learned about pork barrel spending on the campaign trail. So how do you fight that as a charity? How do you, Jim? Mike, anybody. If you're going to run for office, how do you fight that? He's got unlimited money he can spend out there. He can go down and borrow all he wants to get him reelected. And that's happening across America. And gentlemen, don't be deceived by this Freedom Caucus, okay?
Right.
So here's the truth about the Freedom Caucus. And again, I have this. I can send it to you. It's in a spreadsheet. One of the things that's required
explain the Freedom Caucus. Who's the members of the Freedom Caucus?
Well, I had set up, the head of it right now is Chip Roy.
Right.
And I think Andy Harris wasn't he the head of it at one time? Or was maybe a chair up there, whatever. But they're all, and what they are supposed to be is the ultra conservative and all this kind of good stuff.
Margie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, well, they don't like her anymore.
They don't like her anymore, but she's still in it. They didn't kick her out.
Yeah, well, because she won't acquiesce to their diatribe.
Is Gates part of it?
Gates is in there.
Gates
as well.
is in there already. Yeah. So I'm reading this article that was sent to me the other day. And I'm getting inundated with stuff all day long.
So you're saying you're not a fan of the Freedom Caucus?
Well, I think they're talking about both sides of the mouth because they talk about their being fiscally conservative, and in the last 12 months, they themselves did $1 billion in earmarks across the United States to the constituents.
Yeah, well, everybody's got to get reelected. I understand. But that's what they're doing. But they did.
That's the reality of Congress.
You want to get reelected? You go out there into the community that you service and go up to those citizens and say, "I did a good job for you. Can you donate $100 to my campaign?" Well, Congressman,
What have you done for
whatever.
me?
Yeah, exactly. So here's the guy standing the other evening in the debate saying, I think I did what I told you I was going to do. I did this for agriculture. I did this for the watermen. Well, here's the truth, guys. If the constituents looked into that congressman, the guy that represents us, Andy Harris, in the 14 years he's been in office, he's introduced 34 pieces of legislation. One became law. Gentlemen, 34 pieces of legislation in 14 years. One became law.
Wow.
They got the post office in Salisbury named after Sergeant Major Turner, who died in the line of duty in Afghanistan. That's the only thing he's ever introduced that's ever passed. And he says he's working for the people in agriculture. He hasn't done beans. I met a lady.
Could I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Can part of what you can be considered success, though, as a congressman, especially in the climate that we have,
When you don't have a majority or
is
Senate can't pass it.
blocking what the other side's trying to do?
Well, a lot of people put in bills knowing that they're not going to get passed just so they can say, look, I did this bill. They know it's not going to pass.
No, but I'm talking like the Democrats trying to ram something through. Can part of your claim to fame not just be what I passed, but what I stopped from passing?
They say voting record. Look at my voting record.
Yeah.
Right.
The Brookings Institute has him rated 85.2% conservative voting. Well, aren't you a conservative? Yes, I'm a conservative. Then shouldn't it be 100%?
Here's what I find. I find a lot of these politicians put bills in when they know they can't get them passed because they don't have the majority.
Sure. Right.
So they put these bills in to say, look at how 2A friendly, look at how 2A I am, look at how fiscally conservative I am, look at how I am, knowing that it doesn't stand a chance in hell of making it through the Senate.
So if you're,
But when they do have the supermajority, where was that nationwide carry bill? Where was that suppressor bill? Where was that bill that you had before? When you could have gotten it through, you never put it in.
well, can you? How do you stop yourself then if you become elected? How do you stop yourself from wanting to provide these earmarks for your supporters once they come to you?
When your Democratic challenger is going to do that to fight you.
I don't think it's a bad thing because everyone's doing it,
if you
and your
can't afford it-
constituents need to benefit from your representation to some degree.
No, gentlemen, they're doing it because they're lazy. All you got to do is write up a spending bill and say, I want to give $20 million to the Baltimore Street project in Ocean City, Maryland, to finish up their Baltimore Street project.
Right.
And you sit down and you write the bill up, and you have to take time. And look, they don't have to write these themselves. They send it to the Congressional Legal Office, and they write them for them.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly, right,
So
sure.
it's not like you spend a lot of time there.
The AOC ain't writing bills. I can tell you.
Thank goodness.
Literally now, AI can
She'd
write the bills.
She'd run out of crayons.
AI can write the bills. I can cut your 22 staff into 2.
Exactly. Well, there's a reason why I digressed off that staff thing if you want to come back to it. But anyway, so they write it for you. And then what that requires you to do, if you do it properly, you write the bill, then it goes to committee. Committee looks at the bill and it goes, it's infrastructure. We're going to help them with whatever.
Yep.
And so the committee hears it and the committee says yes. Then it goes from committee, it goes to the floor. And then the floor votes on it. And then it goes to the Senate and the Senate passes it and the president signs it. And that's the legal process of the Constitution. Not sticking it into a bill down here, as an earmark. You see, that's wrong because you're hiding.
So
it
you're
in there.
basically saying you would not do that.
No.
Okay.
If you can,
So are you saying you would read every line of every bill?
what do you mean, Randy?
Well, so part of the problem with pork is that it gets stuck in there and folks don't read it. They don't even know what they're voting for anymore.
But you don't have to do that if you follow the legislative process
but
of
nobody
introducing
else-
the bill.
nobody else
You're going
is.
to get it to the committee, then sending it from the committee to the floor.
Right.
The floor votes. Then it goes from the floor.
If you do
then
the
it
whole
goes to the Senate.
process, is what you're saying.
Exactly. That's called the Constitution of the United
That's the
States.
constitutional process.
But if I'm Democrat Allred, God, I can't even believe I said that. But if I'm Democrat Allred and I stick, what's to stop me from sticking it in there so that yeah, you might find it.
As long as it's not illegal,
You may
they
or may
will.
not find it.
But Mike,
That's what I'm saying. They're going to keep doing it, right?
You've got to get
that's
rid of the
fine,
rule.
Mike. That's okay.
Okay.
If your heart will allow you to do that, that's fine.
Right.
But Chris Bruneau, the congressman from Maryland's first congressional district, is going to do it by a legitimate process.
I see what you're saying.
I'm not going to circumvent a system because I'm lazy and I can stick an earmark in there and not be accountable. It's just like the double asterisks in the Treasury report. There's no accountability. We're talking about transparency, accountability, all those wonderful things. It's pure laziness to do otherwise. And so what's wrong with it?
Yep.
Look, if you got the ability to get it, if it's a legitimate concern, a legitimate need for an infrastructure project.
I need $50 million for a bridge, whatever it is, right?
Exactly.
Right? Yep.
1.9.
Well, yeah,
1.9.
So what is actually
fall of 2028?
Is there anything other than, like you said, laziness? Then what would be their motivation in hiding it?
They're not hiding it. It's actually in there. They're easily found by the way.
But nobody's reading it. So
Yeah, well, you can actually go into the bills because they're in PDF, and you can go in because they're PDFs. And if you want to type in, you can type in.
search for it.
You can search it right in there.
who's doing that other than you?
Well,
Your
Mike,
professional
that's
I mean, I'm glad you're educating us on it because I think I'd like to do that.
well.
but
Let me, and to that point, I'm glad you made that statement because it was interesting. Somebody said to me about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, they listened to me like you all are this evening, and you can see I've done a lot of reading, a lot of research, and I got a lot of stuff sticking in my gray matter up here about this. And we were talking about people who don't know about a primary. So somebody said to me the other day, said, Chris, when you get into Congress, what you should do is, since I told them I would be out in the community, going to the different commissioners meetings and different county council meetings, he said, what you ought to do is you should conduct civics lessons. Instead of having town halls where they just answer some questions and give them a glib answer, take like I did with the ladies up in Cecil County. That went on for 2.5 hours. They didn't want to stop. They had the best time with that. They really enjoyed learning about our government and the Treasury reports.
just this is enjoyable. We're learning a lot. I think.
And that's part of the problem.
And with what we're doing this evening, this will educate some people.
Absolutely.
So we get, and I want to tell you this, gentlemen, one of the things I've learned, and look, this is like part of the movement now. Civics lessons versus little town halls that don't mean anything. Educating the people. One of the things that I've observed, again, in campaigning is this, two things, or two locations that are the most aggressive on events, civically, governmentally, election-wise. It's Cecil County. They are on fire up there. I was there today. I was the last place I was.
Perryman. They're all pissed off about Perryman up there.
No, not really, Jim. They're up there. They're into that. But that's Harford County.
No, I'm talking about across the bridge on the other side.
Yeah, there. But I was talking about election stuff. So far as mixing it up, getting people in that they think are going to represent them. I went up to it's Chesapeake Boulevard, I think it is, where the executive offices are back there. It's like going through a gauntlet of signs for these people that are out there for early voting. Adam Straight's there, Don Branch, Bob Meffley, Rob Alt's there. They're all down there, and it's amazing the energy of these people trying to change their community. They're supporting me because Danielle Hornberger used to be Andy Harris's liaison, so they think she's just a mouthpiece.
Was that up in Elkton?
I'm sorry?
Was that up in Elkton?
No, it's amazing. Yeah. The Fund CCPS movement, the Cecil County Public Schools movement, Jackie Gregory, all these people, they just want change of they're calling it the trifecta. They want to get rid of Daniel Hornberger, Jackie Gregory, and Andy Harris. This is what they want to do. And these people are on fire. They're into it. They have these rallies. They have these meetings. It's amazing. They've embraced me. And just a wonderful friendships that I forged there. The other group is in Worcester County. And now you talk about a fired up group of people. They got a Patriot group down there. They got, I think, a Moms for Liberty group there. They've got this group. There's a gal down there. I won't mention her name. She's behind all these with the central committees and this other family. They're down there. These people are fired up. They have meetings weekly at the library. They at Ocean Pines. They're fired up. They want to make a difference.
They still like their sheriff down there, don't they?
What's that?
They still like their sheriff down there.
Matt Christofoli.
Worcester County.
We're in Worcester.
I
yeah.
was thinking of what Comico.
No, that's Mike Lewis.
Yeah.
Mike. Yeah, he's a friend of everybody here. Probably.
Yeah, he is.
Just spoke to Mike. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good guy.
So Mike's a great guy,
Yeah.
and I met him at last year at the Talbot County Lincoln dinner, and we've become friends. And I really do respect and admire that man.
Yeah, he's
Good guy.
He is, and he's
Can I throw in
sure, Mike.
two issues that I think both of us or all three of us would probably ask, and I'll probably get slapped if we don't. So this is a twofer.
Yeah, I was waiting on this one.
I'm looking for two. These are social oriented questions. We've been kind of leaning more towards the more
Fiscal
and defense kind of oriented questions. But instead of getting in deep with each question, I'm just going to lay both topics out there. Your stance on two things. One, Jim already touched about it, was the gun control issue. Do you support basically a national right to carry, I guess?
reciprocity.
Yes. Or a national permit. Or are you up for, or are you supporting some sort of additional gun control or gun control methods? And then part two is abortion. What's your stance on that? How have you felt about that over the years? Has anything changed recently, or how do you feel about that issue? So I know they're not exactly the same issues, but
No.
I just wanted to kind of quickly before you roll out of here, at least.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about those in the podcast over the last few weeks. For sure.
And these two subject matters live in perpetuity, as you well know.
Right.
They're never resolved.
This isn't how will you solve it. This is just what's your personal feelings about it.
My personal opinion on it. The Second Amendment is clear. We have the right to bear arms. The government should not be involved in it at all.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
Sure.
But you can't unring the bell, guys.
Nope.
There's all this stuff. Let me, and I'll answer it this way. I very simply this: between state, local, and federal government, there's 33 million laws on the books in this country to enforce 10 commandments. Think about that. 33 million laws on the books, and there's just so muddled. I mean, what law are we going to use today for this?
None of which the criminal cares about.
Exactly.
Or follows.
Exactly. So this thing has become so muddled, these subject matters when it comes to gun rights. And it's a constitutional right to bear arms. Now you got the states involved. And again, the Constitution is clear on state rights. So the states have the rights to do things that regulate themselves, but then of course it can't be in violation of your constitutional rights. Right. So this is a constant tug and pull. Me personally, I'm for the right to bear arms. I own 2 9mm. I have an M4 carbine. I have a shotgun, and I have a 22 range rifle I use for target practice.
So you have an M4 carbine, so you're not against assault weapons bans.
Yeah,
you're not for the assault
Look,
weapons
guys.
ban.
Wait,
If we didn't have weapons, what we've been able to
Quote, unquote.
if we didn't have weapons in this country, we would never have overthrown the British government.
No, because last time I checked, we shot them in the face when they tried to take our weapons.
Oh, by the way, that's one of the reasons the Japanese didn't invade the continental U.S.
Correct.
because they knew
we had guns.
Exactly. Absolutely.
A gun behind every blade of grass is what they
exactly
say.
right. And they admitted that.
So I believe in that emphatically, and we have the right to bear arms. And look, I'm not going to get down that rabbit hole. Let me just say, right to bear arms. The government should be involved in it. It's a constitutional right. Anybody who does anything that violates that constitutional right is wrong.
Fair enough.
And when it comes to the abortion matter, I have a simple. Yeah, I can do the politically correct. Yes,
Tap dance,
I'll do it's incest, rape,
3
whatever. All these
sections,
things.
right? Yeah. Right.
Let me tell you this, guys. It's the same with guns. What the hell is the government doing involved in abortion? What is that? Where is that in the Constitution?
It's not in there.
It's not.
No.
Okay. Why is the government involved in a matter that's between a woman, first of all, who it's her body, and she's got to make a decision where I personally believe she's going to answer to a higher power someday, and it's not some bonehead in the White House. So she's got to make a decision. There's generally a man involved with that. And usually these people have some sort of religious conviction. So there might be a spiritual advisor involved in this and probably a medical professional. That is an individual thing to deal with. Why would, where is a guy, even like anybody down there in Washington, D.C., a man who has the authority to tell a woman what to do with her body?
Let me ask you this from the other side of that.
Sure.
If we're conservatives, and which from the root form, basically we are principled with conserving our rights, is the right of life to the infant something we should be preserving as a conservative?
I don't think that, to answer your question, Mike, I think that's our responsibility to preserve life out there. Like you're talking about, like, from a law enforcement perspective. That's almost from a law enforcement perspective. I mean,
No, a moral perspective, not law enforcement.
Yeah, I'm talking about just life in general. You know, does the infant have a right to life?
I think
Or the answer no, just because it hasn't been born yet.
I think that, again, that gets down to the individual decision. I don't think that I was granted that sort of wisdom by God to make that decision.
But you might have to at some point say, I'm for it, or I'm against it, or I'm for it with restrictions. In other words, are you okay with it up to birth? You know, obviously these probably aren't new questions that you've wrestled with, but
It's easy. Are you pro-life?
I'm pro-life.
Are you pro-choice?
Yeah, I'm pro-life. I'm pro-life personally.
Personally, you're
Yeah,
pro-life.
I'm personally pro-life, but that's my personal position.
Your personal position is pro-life,
But my political position, if I'm going to be a politician, is to simply say, what's the government doing involved?
So your political position is pro-choice.
If you want to, are you trying to twist my words, Jim?
I told you it might get a little. I told you it might get a little sticky.
You could say that, but
I did.
Well,
the truth of the statement is that I don't believe the government should be involved in whether what
right now.
So if the government's not involved, then
creating
the
laws.
person has a choice if she wants to do it. It's her choice.
Let me exactly.
Right now, there's a state's right.
It's an individual choice.
Right now, it's also the state's law.
Yes.
Are you supportive of that, or are you saying no, the states shouldn't even be involved? So,
Well, no,
state's a government. State's a government.
Exactly.
Well, that is the basis of the Supreme Court ruling.
Correct.
I researched this very carefully, and that's why the Supreme Court struck it down. It's an individual. It's a state issue.
It's a state issue. Absolutely.
okay, well, that's a little different than an individual issue. In other words, me and a lady can decide to go ahead and do it. That's an individual issue, but the state saying no is now
If they
a
can
government issue.
If they can create a law that denies you that right to do that,
Right.
Correct.
And there's certain states that have done that. So
exactly.
Oh, this is gentlemen. This is segueing and other subject matters that are getting. I just had a conversation the other day with a gal who's a clinician down in Towson.
Are we the first one to ask you this?
What's that about abortion?
Yeah.
No, but this. I want to tell you. Let me tell you.
just want to make sure.
Let me tell you where this. No, this. But I'm being overtly open with you that I'm not towing a political line with this and giving you that glib answer of rape, incest,
The health of the mother.
the health of the mother.
Life of the mother.
No, man, get the government out of this thing. These are my personal feelings about it. Get the government out, and it's an individual decision to make. So I'm pro individual decision is what I am, Jim. I'm pro for an individual to be given
to make that choice.
Exactly. I'm pro for an individual to make their own decision or choice.
Right. To make the
So
choice.
not me. I wasn't granted that wisdom.
No.
But let me tell you where this is going with all this Roe v. Wade or abortion and so forth, because the government got involved in that for so long. Now they're involved in this gender affirming care stuff.
Sure.
Right.
They've taken this authority that they've wielded for so long.
Taking it away from parents.
Exactly. And now they're involved in this gender affirming care thing and so forth. I met with a clinician the other day down in Towson, and she called and asked me to meet with her, and she wanted to share with me what she used to be a liberal Democrat. She converted to being a Republican conservative because of what they're trying to do to her as a clinician on what she's supposed to do.
Right.
If a child comes in there and says, I think I'm a boy, and it's a girl.
And they can't tell their parents, and now we'll take care of you.
The government wants her to do this and say, oh, you got to give them to us, and the parents are not involved, and we want to do gender affirming care therapy and all these things. And she shared this with me. I said, I'm sorry, look, I was like, I didn't realize it was that bad. So you see, they took that inch which was a big lynch with that abortion, and now Health and Human Services and all these. Now they're in this gender affirming care. Government has no right
craziness.
to be there. It is.
Now, I don't know if you saw that this week. You can identify as a season.
Yes, I saw that.
You could be a season now.
We're deer season all year long.
That's right. You guys saw
We're deer season.
That's right. Yeah.
We're deer season.
I'm with you, baby.
That whole thing's crazy because I mean everything that we know is that the human brain doesn't really fully develop until their mid-20s, but yet we're allowing kids to make these decisions, but yet they can't smoke till they're 21. They can't bear arms. It's just insanity.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely insanity.
I want to tell you, gentlemen, one thing, and you asked the question earlier, why vote for Chris Bruneau to be your congressman? And I will tell you, I'll summarize it this way. You're always going to get the truth. I'm not going to give you a glib answer that makes you feel good. I'm not going to give you some sugar-coated rhetoric that is designed to make you feel like everything's okay and get into some kumbaya moment. I research everything that I'm telling you about. I save documents. I have the Chris Bruneau for Congress file. That's where that little story came from about getting the shit out of the basement. And I read everything and I make sure it's fact checked. I just don't take one article. I'm going to go several layers down to make sure it's accurate. And I'll share with you a little article that I read most recently from Simon Atiba. You know who he is?
Yeah.
He's the guy that heckles
Yes.
Corinne Jean-Pierre all the time in the press.
Yeah, he's African, isn't he?
Yeah, he's amazing. I love reading his articles on X or Twitter.
He has does he have the heavy accent?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a
takes
great
it to her.
guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
So he wrote this article about 2 months ago that I read, and it was 2 parts. I'm going to go to the second part to summarize this. He talked about so far as what Americans are reading, and what they're reading is that feel-good narrative, and he said they're reading these things that are put out by MSNBC and CNN, all the feel-good narrative. Biden's saying everything's fine in the country, the list goes on, and the Americans are reading this, and but he answers the question. This is based on his experience. The reason why they're reading that and they're believing it because they don't want to read the truth. They don't want to know the truth because that false narrative makes them feel good that everything's okay in this country. To hear the truth scares the shit out of them. And gentlemen, what I'm telling you this evening is the truth. The debt's $28 trillion. That's the public debt. The other number you hear is the public debt combined with the government debt. The basis of the calculation of our GDP to debt ratio is based on the public debt. That's the money that's borrowed beyond the revenue. The other part of that is government debt. That's relevant to the long-term obligations of the government under trust funds, Medicare, Social Security.
Entitlements.
Not entitlements. It's what they owe in the future. It's a balance sheet item.
So if they use the total numbers, you're saying that ratio would be way off. The GDP ratio.
And the reason why it's important to know the difference is this, because the Penn Wharton business model or budget model that's used by the Treasury Department to determine the health of our economy is based on the public debt,
right,
not the public debt and the government debt. The government long-term debt, they're not paying any interest on. That's a balance sheet item, something they owe over the long term. It's not something they're paying interest on. We're paying interest on the public debt. The public debt is what they're issuing bonds for. The bonds are issued. They're paying the debt servicing is on the bonds that are issued. You got to see that bond list. It's incredible. And they're issuing more every day. So the public debt, the interest is being paid is on the public debt that's borrowed every day. That is money that is borrowed in excess of the revenue that comes in on a daily basis.
And who's buying these bonds?
Private individuals in the United States and countries.
China.
Other countries.
The other countries. The largest holder is Japan. China's number 2. Germany's way up there. France is way up there. England is way up there.
But aren't these bonds getting reduced in value now because of our increased debt? I mean, aren't they at some point worried we're not going to be able to pay on the bonds?
They're getting paid in interest.
They're just paying interest.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens if we default? Is what I'm saying. Isn't that becoming more and more likely?
If we default, it'll be a good thing we all own guns.
That's right.
That's what I mean. I mean, these bonds will be, nobody will be buying these bonds.
If we stop servicing those bonds, there will be a backward implosion in the economy, and that is from the Penn Wharton budget model. I'll send you that article. It's on my website. If you look under issues, it's there. That's where this information comes from. This is from PhDs who know a lot more about this than I do.
Right.
So you need to read that and understand that mechanism. Look, gentlemen, every country in the world is in debt. There's not one country on the planet Earth that is not in debt, but the exception is Macau. Do you know where Macau is? Macau is a special administrative region of China. And the only reason they're not in debt, they're a casino nation. Okay, they don't need to. They got everybody else's money.
The house always wins.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
So every nation in the world is in debt. And the measure of the way they measure the nations so far as their by bond rating and so forth is by saying, okay, how much your GDP and what's your debt? And that's what they measure. So we're right now at about 99% of GDP on our national debt. Russia's only at 26%.
So what's that individual taxpayer debt? Isn't there a number out there that's been thrown around for every U.S. taxpayer?
They got some number out there. Look, guys, there's not even a plan to pay back the principal.
Yeah.
They just keep on
But it's
borrowing.
significant, right? For
It is.
people to understand, it's significant, right?
More than
To
we're
point at yourself and say, I owe this much.
If I
it's
could come up with
significant
a clever way,
Your grandchildren that you don't have yet have this.
have this debt, right? That's
there is no plan, by the way, gentlemen, on paying back the debt. It's just spend. And until a balanced budget comes in place, it will continue to rise.
Well, there needs to be a law for a balanced budget. We don't.
The balanced budget amendment I propose, I got the things that I'm looking at so far is through the Constitution of States, because it's never going to happen in the Senate. You're familiar with them? The Constitution of States Organization.
Oh, Convention of States?
The Convention of States,
Yeah.
Convention of States Organization. I plan on advocating.
Article 5.
Oh, yeah. I plan on advocating for them from Capitol Hill, and there's a couple other, Chip Roy's doing it. I think Harriet Hegman's getting on board with it. We're going to start advocating for this. They've got 22 or 23 states now. Need 34.
Right.
And we can have a constitutional convention.
I heard that Soros is now pumping money out to defeat.
Wouldn't doubt it. So anyway, hopefully one day he'll be meeting his maker and we won't have to deal with him anymore.
The sun.
So, yeah. So along with that constitutional amendment, I think in conjunction with that, it must be also stated in there, this is how we're going to pay back the principal.
Okay.
So we've got to work on that as well. But to conclude my point, you'll always get the truth. I'm not going to tell you some glad story to make you feel good to reelect. I'm going to tell you the truth.
Can I ask you?
Yes.
Oh,
Go ahead, Jim.
no, I was just going to say MAGA, not MAGA.
Do I support Donald Trump?
Yeah.
MAGA actually didn't come from Donald Trump.
I
Did you
know.
that?
I'm just being facetious, but I'm wondering
MAGA
about the Trump thing.
At this point in time,
He's going to be the guy
the best
for Republicans.
at this point in time, I would tell you this, gentlemen.
Can you work with him?
Sure, he's a business guy.
Right.
Hey,
He, 2 plus 2 always makes 4 in his book.
did you
Yeah.
did you support someone other than Donald Trump in the primary? Was there somebody else that you would have rather had? Sorry.
I like that Vivek Ramaswamy guy. Is that how he said his name?
Vivek?
Vivek.
The guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked him. I thought that he had
Smart.
I thought that he had a good business acumen about him.
Yep, that's a good way to put it.
That's how he impressed me. So I thought he was just a younger version of Donald Trump, like back when he wrote The Art of the Deal. So
Interesting.
I would have liked to have seen him.
And speaks like nobody I've ever seen. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's very clear.
amazing
Very clear.
speaker.
Yeah, very clear, very lucid, and with that good business acumen.
Off the cuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
very smart young man, but it didn't pan out, and that's because the momentum that Donald Trump had behind
he's a
him.
populist. Yeah,
Exactly.
he's the most famous person in the world right now. So I mean, that's driving it.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'd watch Chris Christie on a couple of town halls. He's a sharp dude. When it comes to, did you ever see the town hall he did where he talked about when he got elected as governor? He got elected as governor whenever he got sworn in, and he was hired to fix their budget deficit in New Jersey. And so 8 months later, he had cut the budget by $825 billion or some ridiculous number. And he cut like 178 social welfare programs, and everything's in balance. And they were like, but you cut all these programs. He said, you hired me to balance the budget. You didn't hire me to come out here and make everybody feel good.
Right.
So, and his favorability rating went up 32% as a result of that, because he did what he was hired to do.
Yep.
And so I admired that of him. So he had that acumen also to do that. So he had that focus on what we needed so far as to turn this ship that seems rudderless, or I call it a juggernaut, that seems just impossible to manage, and that's the bureaucracy that's controlled by the President of the United States. Donald Trump, given two consecutive 4-year terms, I think he would have turned the bureaucracy around. You said something, Jim, I think earlier about longevity. Think about this, gentlemen. Have you ever pondered how we got to where we are with the size of the bureaucracy? Have you ever considered what got us here, as what period in our history got the government, the size of the bureaucracy, the number of agencies got us here to where we are today? You ever thought about that?
I think I've heard some theories on it, but I thought it was like back to the Roosevelt days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how long was he in office?
A long time. Well, almost 16 years, right?
16 years.
Died in office.
So how long does it take to screw up a country?
Well, it took
16
4
years.
It just took 4 years.
It took Biden too.
But how? So if it took 16 years to screw it up, how many years is it going to take to unscrew it?
Yeah.
I think 16 years.
At least.
So here's my thought on how to unscrew it. Okay. If we could have done this, I think, with George Bush. Ronald Reagan was in there 2 terms. Great guy, turned this country around. If George Bush could have stayed in there for another 2 terms after the Reagan administration, gentlemen, I think we would have turned the tide in this country. So if we can get...
You're talking senior?
Yeah,
Yes.
George Bush Sr.
Right.
So we would have had basically a Reagan era for a total of 16 years in office.
Right.
So if we can find the right candidate who has the right business acumen, Vivek, is that how he says it? Vivek, somebody like that with a great vice president who knows how to manage people, money, read P&Ls, read balance sheets, work with the people within the bureaucracy, government.
Set him up for another 8 years.
Exactly. Then you got that guy, first guy in there, 8 years, vice president, runs, got another 8. Now you got 16 years of a continuum of a business plan, right?
Right.
And we start turning this. It's going to take more than just 8 years. It's going to take what it took to screw it up to unscrew it. So that's my personal opinion.
So we screwed it up, and we've had decades and decades, and there's this thing called the swamp that has been created. And included in that swamp is the CIA, the FBI, all these alphabet agencies that are mostly unchecked and controlled by the executive branch. So we see this lawfare going on. We see what's happening to Trump right now. Everybody can see what's happening. It's obviously purely political.
Yes.
My question is, they just passed and re-upped FISA.
Yep.
And we know FISA has been an absolutely catastrophic failure of violations of laws. FBI people literally altering documents to get FISA warrants, and nothing happens to them. No accountability. Judges aren't holding them accountable. Yet they go ahead and up FISA again for national security. Now, I'm a big national security guy, and I think we need FISA, but FISA should not have been just rubber stamped and renewed. There should have been changes into that FISA program where there has to be some type of defense when you bring something up to a judge to get a warrant. There has to be somebody on the other side that represents a person that has no idea that they're going up. There has to be some type of defense to say this is bullshit. and have some defense there. You can't just have one side present a case like you say. You can indict a ham sandwich.
Yeah.
I can put anything in front of a grand jury and get him indicted. Doesn't mean it's true. Okay, same thing is happening with in the FISA courts. So they just re-up that FISA stuff. How do you feel about the FISA program and the future of the FISA program? And do you think it should have been renewed?
As with so many government programs, they start out with the greatest of intentions.
From after it came about after 9/11.
Exactly. It was the greatest of intentions. It was
Patriot
designed.
Act. It was under the Patriot Act.
It was designed to protect Americans from another 9/11. I understand that. I think it gets down to motivation. What was the original motivation for 9/11?
Sure.
The Patriot Act. That's the proper motivation, to protect the United States of America, to protect the citizens. So the motivation in place is proper. So, and what happens? Just like with every other government program,
It's corrupted.
it gets corrupted.
Yep.
It becomes a political football. How can we make this? How can we use this to our advantage? I have no doubt that these people are using that to their advantage to investigate people that otherwise would not be investigated. Some of the quiet stuff that's going on. I haven't followed it in detail, but I'm sure there's some sneaky, surreptitious stuff going on with this, with the FISA court. I think it's still one. It's just one judge, isn't it?
And that's multiple judges.
Is it multiple judges? Okay. So anyway, this thing's, I think it's one court. That's what it is. Just one.
It's one court, yeah.
One court. So again, it's like anything else that's been created in our government. It's becoming abused. We had this bureaucracy that started out a long time ago that was really for the benefit of the people. It's abused. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he never envisioned that it would be the juggernaut that it is today. He was to help people out of the Great Depression, and it did. We went in debt for it. We stayed in debt for it. We've always been in debt. So I believe they had the best of intentions, but unfortunately, they become political footballs, and these guys find a way to make money off of it. They find a way to stay in office forever. Look, the guys, we know they're all wealthy. So how do we stop that? Term limits. It's that simple. It's that simple, guys. Term limits is like the simplest solution to all of it. Because as soon as you do term limits, they can't go. They cannot. There's first of all, PAC money goes away. There's no influence.
So we know that none of our elected officials are going to go for that. Well, it's just the bottom
They're not
line.
going to vote themselves out of office.
Is there any way that we can, as American citizens,
Constitution
Article
of States,
5.
Convention of States.
Convention of States, Article 5.
Okay.
It's the only way. And I believe, gentlemen, they're going to do that. I don't know that it'll happen within the next decade or so, but I've been following.
They're making headway.
They're making great headway.
Right.
Okay. That's good to know.
So here's, gentlemen, gets down to, remember my civics lessons? So let's do a civics lesson. I'm going to go to the people of the 1st Congressional District as their congressman, and today's civics lesson is going to be on Article 5 of the Constitution. And they're going to go, wow, what's this about? Let me tell you how we got our Constitution today. And you tell them how we got here, that we started out as a confederation of states. What? I thought we were always this. You talk to some of these people, they don't realize we overthrew Great Britain to become a country. I thought we always were Americans. No, we overthrew a country to get here today. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then we became a confederation of states under the Articles of Confederation. And then that didn't work out real well. So we thought we got to change this around. So we had a constitutional convention, 1788, 1789, we ratified, and then we become a constitutional republic. Thank you, Jim. So we become a constitutional republic. Okay. So we have this little civics lesson, and we give them that backstory on how we got here and tell them about Article 5. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, that's alive and well. And what we can do today is we can amend our Constitution 2 ways, explain it through that goes through Congress, how that works. And they go, well, that's never going to happen. Yes, we know that. And there's a thing called the Convention of States.
Right.
And this is the movement. See, gentlemen, this boils down to education, because they're reading the sugar-coated narrative. They're reading the feel-good narrative. They're not reading the truth.
Right.
You're going to get the truth from me. That's what I'm telling you. This is not going to be a big legislative ordeal. Go down there and we're going to fix. No, this is going to be going out educating the American people. That's what these people are doing in Cecil County. That's what these people are doing in Worcester County. That's what people are starting to do across this country. And they're starting to educate themselves about the truth.
Yeah, back to basics, basically.
Exactly. Getting back to the fundamentals, Captain.
And the truth shall set you free.
Yep.
Exactly.
I agree.
I'm afraid we're going to have to
I think
wrap.
that's the key. Yeah.
What's that?
I think we're going to wrap on that.
Right. I got till midnight.
Mrs. Allred would be very upset with me. But yeah, listen, we could go on.
We could.
I have about a dozen more questions I could ask, and
We can have
all these answers have led to follow-up questions that probably we all have.
This is good, though. I think we got a sense for who Chris is.
Yeah, I think so too.
I
And
absolutely
think
did personally.
I
so,
can't thank you enough for coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Yeah, I enjoyed myself immensely.
I'm glad you did because it was fun for all of us, and I'm hoping too that our listener out there will also be able to get something from it too. So
That's all I did, gentlemen.
Yeah,
To get the word out there. This is what we need to do. We need to
shout
get
out
the
to
truth
Dwayne Wallace. I know he's going to be listening. So
Yeah, Dwayne will.
he might be the only listener, but hey, we love you, Dwayne.
When's election day?
May 14th.
May
14th is
14th. May
fine.
14th,
May 14th,
everyone.
Everybody out
2024.
there.
So early election.
This will come out.
Early voting has already started.
Early voting started yesterday.
Yeah.
It's going through the 9th.
Yeah.
So you have time. This will drop Saturday morning. So there will be 4 days.
Yep.
Basically 4 days. This was good. It was a good civics lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do
And,
it again, guys. If you want to do
Absolutely.
this.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Because I have a lot more to ask you. Yeah. I'd like to pick your brain some more.
Yeah.
But
There's a lot
again,
up here.
thank you so much.
There's a lot up here. Some of it's scary, but we'll stick with the fundamentals. How's that?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap up, and but before we go, I want to thank our other sponsor who just started with us. Again, it's the Masoni's Italian Restaurant in Perry Hall. The address is 8833 Bel Air Road. Listen, guys, go check it out. Jim loves it, right, Jim?
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, very good.
Oh,
food.
that's right, Captain. You were there too.
I've been
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jim endorsed
Did
it,
you guys
the
know they had
captain
brunch? I didn't even know they had brunch until last
Yeah.
week.
They have brunch?
Yes,
What
I
time
told
does brunch
you.
start?
Brunch is at 11 a.m. on Sunday.
There you
Obviously.
go.
So they have,
Good food.
I'm going to tell you, they have, I said this last week, features bottomless Bloody Marys, crushes, and mimosas.
What else could you ask for?
I don't even need any food.
Yeah. Come on. Especially before an Orioles game. You know,
Oh, yeah.
A 1:30 Orioles game. Oh, perfect.
Chef Evan has it
Perfect.
going on out there. They have, golly, let's see. Well, if you know where it is, you don't have to go now. You don't have to go all the way to Little Italy anymore. I mean, nothing wrong with Little Italy, but this is in your own backyard probably. So for you Marylanders anyway, go check them out. Say hello to the Masonis. They have the espresso, the margarita martini flights, homemade ice cream now. Did you guys have that when you were down here?
The,
Homemade? Chris Masoni makes it.
Yeah, we didn't have it, but they're Italian's authentic. It's very good.
Yeah, yeah. Tiramisu, rosemary shortbread, ricotta cake. It's got it. Yeah.
What, is
Anyway.
it ricotta cake?
Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds.
No, I'm sorry. Ricotta. Yeah, ricotta cake. Yeah. Rosemary shortbread. I called it short cake last week, but it's rosemary shortbread and ricotta cake. So
That sounds amazing.
yeah.
I'm going to skip the.
We'll have to have
dessert.
we'll have to have a podcast party.
we could do one down there and eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
that's our excuse. Yeah.
I can go with that. So and this is going out tomorrow just to let folks know I'm still campaigning, even though we're doing early voting.
Cool.
So tomorrow morning at 10, I'm in Y Mills for their old mill opening at 10 o'clock. From there, I'm going to Princess Anne for their Cinco de Mayo Fest.
Wow.
So we're going to eat tacos there. Then I'm going over to Wicomico County to go to their early voting centers there. Put a few signs out there.
Great.
You saw my truck in the driveway out there.
Yeah.
Chris Bruneau for Congress. Sit out there and wave to folks and get to meet folks.
And what's your website?
It's cbforcongress.com.
CB. Okay.
cbforcongress.com.
Okay, cool.
And then Monday, as I told you, the Waterman in Kent County. So a lot of stuff still in the schedule. It's nonstop.
Okay, folks, you heard it. Check it out. Check out the website and good luck, Chris.
Thanks,
And
guys.
go get out there and vote.
Please.
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah, please
Get out there and vote.
Jeez, a whiz. All right. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you next week
Thank
here
you.
on the All Red, White, and Blue podcast. Take care.
You've been listening to the All Red, White, and Blue Show, produced by Katie Lahan, engineered and mixed by Mike Allred. recorded at Third Floor Loft Studios. On behalf of Mike, Jim, Kevin, Scott, Todd, and the captain, thanks for listening. And we will be back next week with a brand new episode of the All Red, White, and Blue Show.